And I'm Miss Clark. I'm the student support counselor. And I say it every time, unfortunately, I don't do anything with the academic part. So if you ask me a question about that, I'm like, I don't know, Herbo, help me out. So just really quick, some facts that for 2024, because we have lots of facts at like 2020, but for some reason 2024 has been harder to find. But the things I wanted to report out is that 13% of youth have reported experiencing serious thoughts of suicide, and that 23% of adults, so that's obviously us, experienced a mental illness in the past year, equivalent to nearly 60 million Americans. The other thing is 1 in 5 youth have had at least one major depressive episode in the past year, 1 in 5. Nearly a half of those did not receive treatment. And of those who did receive treatment, only 65% have said that it helped them. Treatment is a really tricky thing too, just to kind of put it out there. It really all depends on so many things, because a lot of times we'll hear parents say treatment didn't work. And sometimes it doesn't in that moment. It depends on where the kid is in their healing process to kind of decipher if it's gonna work or not. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. That was more adults, and that's private health. I won't get in there about mental health because it just drives me insane. We should have more availability, but okay. That was just a few facts. The other thing, oops, did I go? No, okay. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of sources of stress in our teens, but our mental health crisis we know is also on the rise, right? Our emergency room department visits have increased for kids between 12 to 17 compared with 2019. In particular, they're seeing an increase in visits related to self-harm, drug poisonings, eating disorders among the highest since the pandemic. Just to piggyback too really quick on the fentanyl thing, and I know that's not what my presentation's about, but I say privilege, it probably sounds really weird to say that, but I have the privilege of working with a lot of parents that have lost children. And 2 weeks ago, I was at a camp for those that have lost a child, and 3 of them had lost a kid to fentanyl. And I said, hey, what would you want me to tell the parents for your voice, for your kid? And they said, number one, you can't have the mindset, it's not my kid. And number two, they said, you have got to talk, like Mr. Toth said, do not take anything from anybody else. Even, it doesn't matter how much you trust them, because you never know. I promise you, every single kid that does have this, does engage with fentanyl, 99.9% of them have no idea that that's what they're doing. Most of the time they're going after Adderall, which you're like, why would kids take Adderall? A lot of times they'll take that so that they can stay up for test. And the other one that a lot of times is Percocet, which is, what do you call it? Pain medicine. So those are the two that they normally go after. They're not going after fentanyl. But what we're finding is it's laced. Also Xanax, that's another huge one. So, sorry, that's not what we're talking about. I can do that one next time. But we just want to hit that. So obviously stress, when we think of stress, we automatically think it's negative. It's not negative. Stress is good. It helps, it's our body's natural reaction. It motivates us, but it can feel overwhelming and it can disrupt our concentration. So again, we've got the good stress. We need it for sports, for working out, for practice, for studying for a test. You need to have that stress, right? But the bad stress is where it's chronic. And we're going to talk about what it does to our immune system. It contributes to diseases such as obesity and heart disease. It encompasses our thoughts, feelings, and behavior, but it affects how we handle stress, how we relate to others, and how we make choices. So, I only put the main one that we see, obviously, is school, right? Because that's everything our kids deal with right now. But socially, they are worried about fitting in, making friends, romantic relationships, peer pressure, getting along with their teachers. Also, as we talk about a lot of times up here, Mr. Toth does, academically, we are in one of the most competitive academically areas in, I would say, the state of Texas, but I don't really know. But grades, rigor, class rank, college applications, it is wild here. And I guess I just go back to when I was growing up and things were way different. Like, I wasn't talking college rank in my freshman year, or not college rank, but my rank and what school I was going into and my plan. I don't even know if I talked to my counselor my entire school year. But the other thing I wanted to point out is not just us, right? So once they go to college, during 2021, more than 60% of college students met their criteria for at least one mental health problem. Okay, and that was 373 campuses that they kind of collected their data. So obviously we're going to have some of these things, and that's normal, but when they persist and they interfere, that's what a lot of parents ask me, how do I know when it's bad? When it's interfering with their daily life, we need to look into it and see what's going on. There's more there. So here's some of the signs. Irritability and anger. Again, that's hard because I don't know any teen that doesn't experience that at some time. But the thing is, they don't have the words, they don't have the emotional vocabulary to tell us that these things are going on, okay? These tension things that they experience, they go into a bad mood, but our stressed out kids, they seem to be more short-tempered or more argumentative than normal. And in a second, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that could look like. If you see changes in their behavior, this is what we're seeing a lot this year, is a once active teen. Now they're just wanting to stay home. They're wanting to stay in their room. They're not wanting to hang out with kids as much, sports as much. This is another huge one, trouble sleeping. And again, if you were at my last few, I always harp on sleep. And that involves phones, but we'll get to that one too. But I can't tell you how important sleep is. If you start to see them neglecting the responsibility of, again, all of a sudden they're not doing their homework as normal, they forget their obligations, they start procrastinating more than usual, stress might be a factor. It's not just being a hard teen. Eating changes, eating too much or eating little can both be reactions to stress. This is another one. If they're starting to get sick more often, you may notice that their immune system isn't as high as it used to be. Okay, they don't have that wording, so a lot of times they'll say, "Mom, my stomach hurts," or "My head hurts," or they go to the nurse quite frequently. Okay, this might be a sign. So this was just kind of interesting to me to see some of the symptoms of teen stress. The biggest is, again, irritable or angry. Again, that's kind of hard to tell. But they report feeling nervous or anxious. They're always tired. They lay awake at night, headaches, feeling as though I could cry, feeling overwhelmed, feeling depressed or sad, change in their sleeping habits, skipping a meal, upset stomach, or indigestion. So that was just some of the things that you may see. So what can we do? Like I said, sleep. Teens need at least 8 to 10 hours a night. You would be blown away when I've asked a lot of my kids, "How did you sleep last night?" And they're like, "Oh, pretty good." I'm like, "What time did you go to bed?" 2. Okay. All right. What were you doing till 2? Playing video games. Okay, or I was talking to my friends, or blah, blah, blah. Now, sometimes there's really a legit, they can't fall asleep, but a lot of times it is involved with doing something else. Again, limit that screen time at night if you can. Make the room as dark as possible. Go through those things that is they know when they lay in bed at night that their brain is getting ready to go to bed. If they lay in bed at night and their brain is getting ready to play a video game, it's not signaling it's time to go to bed. Exercise is huge. This one says 60 minutes a day. Some of your kids, that's really hard, and I understand that's not, going to be able. You're not going to be able to do that, but that's the goal. Another one, talking it out. Again, they need to have somebody they can talk to. We would hope a trusted adult. We would hope that would be you, but at this stage, sometimes they hate us, right? So we never know if they're going to want to talk to us or not. But if they don't, we need to make sure they have somebody they can talk to. I thought this one was really important. Make time for fun, but also make time just to be quiet, okay? Just like us, we need time to do what brings us joy. They need time to do what brings them joy. When they're going from, again, we live in a very Our kids are always doing something in this area. But when they're bouncing from one thing to the next, they don't have downtime. As adults, I need to have downtime. I have to have downtimes on the weekends when people ask us about our jobs and they say, how do you do it all and keep a good perspective on things? I have to have downtime. Okay, so if that means I'm reading a book for an hour and I'm not looking at anything else, if that means sometimes just driving home, I'll turn off the radio and won't, take any phone calls, whatever I need to do, but I need downtime. So if we need downtime, so do your kids. They don't need to constantly be their brain activated. These are some of my other ones. Get outside. I can't tell you how much research says just being outside, that natural vitamin D, and also this sounds really hippie-ish, but like the grass. Okay, there's so much research that just shows that them taking their shoes off and actually putting their feet in the grass, I know it sounds weird, but that actually can help with depression and anxiety. And that's a perfect example to be like, we gotta go on vacation. We gotta go somewhere. I'm just kidding. But also writing about it. Research says that is one of the ways that we can really improve our mental distress. And also if we write about our positive feelings, because let's be honest, most teens aren't that lovely and positive all the time. Sometimes we have to make them focus on the positive things. I'm really big with my kiddos when I work with them privately is, what is your gratitude journal? Like, let's start a gratitude journal. Every night, 3 things that you're thankful for that happened that day. Because sometimes our kids, and again, we've talked about this, they get so narrow-minded. And I always have them do this. Like, I have them look through their hand, and I'm like, this is all you can see, right? They focus, their brains are made to focus solely on the negative. So sometimes we have to help them open their scope and realize that it's not all negative. Everything we go through is a learning opportunity, but we've got to be able to present it that way. And that's something we're going to talk about too. Again, here's just some free leisure things that they can do. And sometimes we need to do it too, right? And we're going to talk about that. We've got to model. We can't just preach it. We've got to model what we're doing. There we go. Model our healthy coping. When I ask my kids, a lot of times I'm like, how do your parents model, right? Same as if you probably ask my kid. How do your parents model healthy coping strategies? They're like, I don't know. And so we've got to model that healthy. Internal stressors, okay? Everything that's going on internal, that determines our bandwidth of how we can handle the external stressors. So when we think of external stressors, think of things we can't handle. You can't control. Traffic, yes. The weather, your spouse, like we can't control them, right? These are all external stressors. But if we're overly stressed, then our external stressors seem really large, and then we cannot handle the smallest of internal stressors. And I put in there traffic, that's the biggest example, because that's my personal one, right? Like, I was telling Dr. Herbo today I took the wrong way to take my kid to school. Like, who does that? But I think my brain was just, but I had to remind myself, well, now I'm here, I can't stress about it, right? Like, I can't control it. If I turn around now, I'm gonna be 10 more minutes late, so I'm just here and going through it. So just kind of reminding yourself too what you can and what you can't control. But the main point is, if you're constantly stressed out, you are not gonna have the bandwidth to handle all the little things, okay? And that's our kids too. This is my favorite one, and I really wish that I could talk to the whole parents about, the whole school. Yes. We've got to let our kids sit in distress. I know it's not comfortable, and sometimes I need somebody to preach at me too with my kid, but we've got to let them sit in it. It's called, in the counseling world, we call it distress tolerance. Okay, we are such amazing parents that we just don't want our kiddos to feel or hurt anything, and I get that, but we're setting them up for failure. Okay, so if we can teach them things now while the stakes are low or lower, we can help them as they go off on their own to college and as a young adult. So again, we've got to teach them, how do they handle these setbacks? How do they handle the stress? And guess what? That gives them the confidence that they need. They need to be able to learn how to handle when things don't go their way. Dr. Herbo and our whole team, we are really big on teaching our kids, how do you advocate for yourself? How do you talk to the teacher? We really need them to be able to say, because we get, so many parents, again, great intentions, but when you solve all the problems for your kids, they don't know how to solve them on their own. And we're seeing a huge increase in that. So again, if they have that low distress tolerance, they are easily overwhelmed. And if we can't teach them how to handle all of it now, especially before they go off on their own, then that's where some real danger can come in. The other thing we can do is promote healthy media literacy. What does that look like? How often are we on our phone? What are we saying out loud sometimes that we don't even know what we're saying when we're looking at posts? Or like, must be nice, or wish I didn't have to work. I say that sometimes. But those are the things we have to pay attention. What do we say? Because they're looking at us. And sometimes they like to reinforce what we preach, but we don't necessarily show them. So the other thing, teach them how to combat the negative thinking. Our brains, the kids' brains, it's naturally going to, like I said, go to those negative thinking patterns. So like I'm terrible at math, or I hate my hair, or I'll never make the team, or why should I even try out? Okay, they can normally feel that. We don't want to necessarily disagree with them, but we want to ask them to really think about what they're saying, if it's true or not. Okay, remind them of times that they've worked hard and they've improved. Remind them of times where they didn't think they could do something and they could. Like Dr. Herbo says all the time, we're going to love you through this. Love them through it. The other thing that I work on a lot with my students is that a feeling or is that a fact? Okay, well, when they're like, well, my teacher doesn't like me, or my teacher has something out to get me. Is that a feeling or is that a fact? It's a fact. Okay, then what do we have to prove it? What are your base points? So a lot of times it feels like it's a fact, but when we actually break it down, it's not a fact. That's our feeling, right?
Also, to add to that, I was reading somewhere that sometimes our kids just say negative things. For example, if they say, I'm not good at math, it's just adding like negative feelings rather than saying, you should tell your kids, rather than saying, I'm not good at math, if you just say, I'm not good at math yet.
We talk about that. We've been talking about that.
Positive, for them to say positive things rather than just negative. That's how the mind starts thinking positively rather than negatively.
We actually talked about that in our freshman guidance this week, is we said the word yet, because that is what we call growth mindset, absolutely. Too much information, but DBT is a big word, dialectical behavior therapy, is what I use a lot with our teens, because we've got to help them understand what mind frame we are in. Because when our strong emotions get in the way of thinking, we can't think to a solution. Okay, so we will talk about, are we in emotion mind or are we in reasonable mind? Okay, emotion mind, I like to think of back here, and that's like your, again, that's your reptile brain. And your reasonable is your logical mind. We know this is the last to develop. But emotion, you are going by feelings. Everything is based on a feeling. Reasonable, it's fact. Okay, so think of your F's. So feelings, fact. Reasonable is obviously logical. Emotion is impulsive. Guess where 95% of our students react out of? And us, let's be honest. And I always give great examples to my students about, hey, I don't make good decisions when my emotions are leading everything. Think about when you've had an argument with your kid or your spouse. You're not in your emotion. You're in emotion mind. You're not in your wise mind. Okay, so again, if you're thinking of it's cold, it's hot, reasonable is task-oriented, emotion is passionate, reasonable mind is mood independent, emotion is mood dependent, reasonable long-term, emotion short-term. However, there's times that we need both. So I don't want you to think that either one of them is necessarily a negative thing. We do need both. But when we're having a big moment, we need to ask ourselves, can we be in the middle? When we talk about wise mind, the word is and, okay? You can be upset with your parents for grounding you and know that you're getting grounded because you made a poor choice, okay? A lot of times, especially in our really high functioning and smart kids, they don't see gray. They see black or white. So having to teach them there is an and, okay? I can love my kiddo and I can also not like my kiddo in the same breath, right? You can have both. Those of us that are going through like sorrow or you've been through grief, you can be really, really in the midst of feeling so down, but in the same breath, you can be so thankful. Like there's both and. So this is just another thing that's kind of good to ask your kids if you want to start incorporating it. Hey, what mind were you in when you made that decision? And get them to really focus on moving towards the both and, right? Being in that wise mind, using your feelings and your facts. Some examples that I give my kids is if you're thinking about reasonable mind, like that's like you're following a recipe. You are studying for a test, you're reading, you're doing homework. That is your all in this part of your brain, okay? Emotion mind, a disagreement, an argument with your parent, an argument with a friend, looking at social media, okay? So these are all you're using your feelings, whereas wise mind is you are incorporating both. Knowing that you're really, really upset with a friend, but also knowing that you can probably work through it if you just give it time. So the both and. I think that is almost, and then happy chemicals, yes. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and oxytocin. You don't have to necessarily always pay for these, okay? You can get them on your own. Dopamine, again, that's that reward chemical. That's why a lot of us are on social media, because every hit we get, okay? So dopamine, we can get the same thing if we celebrate our small wins, if we are eating really good food, if we're sleeping enough, we're taking care of our self-care, we're listening to music, we're achieving a goal. That's all a natural way to hit that dopamine, okay? Serotonin, again, sometimes it's natural that at this time, we don't make all the chemicals. So I don't want you to hear me say, I'm not saying that if your kid takes something to help them with their serotonin, that there's anything wrong with that. But we can also do things naturally, okay? Deep breathing, meditating, getting sun, walking in nature, again, touching your feet to the grass, I know. Positive thinking and running, that all releases that serotonin. Oxytocin, that's that love hormone. And can get really confused sometimes with everything else that our kids have going on right now. You have to know too, their hormones are insane. So, yeah, same as menopausal. But yes, so playing with a pet, spending time with friends, helping others, giving compliments, hugging someone you love, and holding hands. This is all natural ways that we get that chemical. Also, this is another thing is paying attention to the good. That's why, as annoying as it is, ask them 3 things every day that was good throughout the day. And those endorphins, that's that pain reliever. So laughing, exercising, stretching, watching a comedy, being creative, and eating dark chocolate. I used to give out dark chocolate to all of my staff when I would do a training for them, because yes, it actually increases those natural endorphins. So there you go. You have a good thing to eat dark chocolate. Yes.
So I was just saying, I bought all the cute journals. She's like, oh, me too. And the glitter pens, right? And they're still not going to write in it. So it just dawned on me. We do take our kiddo's phone away. So what if in the morning you get it back, you have to tell me 3 things. I write it down in a gratitude journal. Therefore, it's like a teamwork. She still has to think of it. I can give it to her at some point, but it's just a little something, something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
Little barter always works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that I like, again, you could use, you don't have to, but like write these things down on strips of paper. I have a fake little recycle bin on my desk, and when they're getting stuck in those negative thoughts, I have them grab a thought out of there. It's a recycle bin, so they can actually use that thought over and over. So some little like mantra, like I can do hard things, or I've proven I can do it, or my value is not based on my academics, whatever.
I've even written on my kids' mirror.
Yes.
I printed out positive printouts, laminated, and hung them all over her room.
Yeah, yes.
She didn't take them down.
That's good. That is good. So again, there's some really cheap ways to chill. This reachout.com, I'm putting it's on the resources that's going to pop up, but this is just a really cool thing that you can do to just get those natural endorphins going too. So that's what it looks like, the Reach Out. It's Australian, I think, but still they have a lot of good resources. And then the mental health, this health, they have a lot of good stuff as well. You will get a copy of this. I think they send it out, and that's why we've also started recording for those that miss it. And I think that's it. Oh, yes.
You guys are going above and beyond. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, well, we're trying. We are trying. And
We see it.
I really want, if we can, just increasing our awareness of mental health things. I know our area, we are so focused on academics, but if I could just tell you the things that we see, I'm like, oh, yes, academics are so important, but we're never going to get there if we don't deal with everything else that we're seeing too. So, and sometimes we miss it as parents because we're so just laser focused on where are they going to college, where are they this, oh my gosh, are they behind? We don't always pay attention to.
There's a new update on